So, I was reading the internet this week.
No.
I don't know if you've heard of it.
It's there.
I like to read the internet. The internet has things.
Okay, cool.
And on this, as I was cruising around, it's funny what you find. So I found this Bloomberg News article. It's from 2014, and it says, what happens when every city has a giant Ferris wheel?
I think that's it. I think that's it. Every city has a giant Ferris wheel. That's as far as you...
Yeah.
Is there some sort of...
Yeah, I thought, that's a dumb question. Then I thought, but it's not a question I've ever heard before. I wonder...
Okay, cool.
So keep going. It says, look, since the early 2000s, there have been heaps of new ones.
It was like the London Eye, and then Singapore had one. I know Brisbane. Melbourne had one that didn't go well, something.
I think, and there's a Tokyo one, and there's many. Mm-hmm. But it turns out like heaps since the early 2000s.
Okay.
Like Rome as well, and New York, Jerusalem were being planned at least at 2014.
It seems. I mean, New York, totally cool. Like, New York's full of all the modern
How
things.
do they not have five?
I feel, and London is, still a mod, and it's got a lot of different stuff in there. Rome and Jerusalem, I feel like, Jerusalem in particular.
Jerusalem.
I feel like Jesus didn't say, you know what you should have here? When I'm long dead, a Ferris wheel.
Not enough amusements. So why are they suddenly turning up? I mean, at all, but particularly now.
Cheap?
No, one guy apparently called Ronald Busink or Busink. So he's apparently the lead designer of modern-day Ferris wheels, and since 1985, he's built more than 100 of them. And we're not talking like the bigger show. We're talking...
Yeah, the big ones, the proper
Ferris
ones. Yeah.
wheels,
He's like, I'm doing this proper.
Yeah. He designed... So apparently he designed the Millennium Wheel thing in Paris in 2000, and that got people going, oh, that's pretty cool. Okay. And he thought, oh, that's pretty cool too. So he became inspired to tweak them, modify them, make them weird,
I can make them a business. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So his company's apparently huge. If you look at Ronald Busink Inc. or PTY, whatever, they ain't mucking around.
Okay.
That's fucking wild. Like,
you can't just go on there and pick up a bargain basement one for like a couple of $100. This
you
is
getting weekly installments of 3,000 weeks. You get a piece each week, but it's way cheaper that way.
Or like when you're a kid, you get the magazine and it comes with make an Egyptian sarcophagus.
Yeah.
And you start...
But don't be in a hurry.
No.
When I was younger,
So
I subscribed to some of those, and
of course
they just stopped.
Yeah, I don't
Not
doubt
one
it.
of them finished. Not one of them got to the end where suddenly the subscription stopped, and by that point you're like, I didn't even notice. It's 3 months later, and you go, hang on, where's the last bit of my Jeep?
Maybe it was a scam.
No, I got some bits and some very informative magazines. This is before I was reading the internet, or indeed anyone was. So anyway, he realised Ferris wheels. This Busink decided, look, these can become standalone attractions, or as one article put it, lucrative landmarks.
Okay.
Lucrative landmarks.
Yep.
So they didn't have to be part of a whole amusement park. They could be a standalone thing. So he started pitching them to governments, to developers, etc. So the article says, look, will there come a point, or perhaps are we already there, when so many cities have Ferris wheels, they're no longer special or unique?
Sure. But
again, maybe.
It's not about the Ferris wheel. Like it's about slightly going a little bit high, and you can see the city from a slightly different angle. So it's not...
You can see through this paper.
I don't think anyone is going, you know what, I'll skip every other thing in London or whatever, and I'll close my eyes once I'll only look at the floor of the Ferris wheel. But I just want to be in a Ferris wheel. I don't think it's that.
Holy shit, there's a skyline who knew. In London, you can tell. So apparently they're not hard to sell. He said, look, they're often way cheaper than major landmarks. So about 15, 20 million compared to a giant skyscraper, a huge museum, which can cost hundreds of millions. They're really fast to build, like a year from go to woe.
Oh, yeah.
Faster than
I am
skyscraper.
obviously convinced already. I was going to put in the Kayleen wheel.
So I'm selling to the soul here. And they reckon, at least in theory, you can generally expect to make your money back within the first couple of years, which is pretty impressive. Their footprint is comparatively very small, so you can drop them in amongst other things.
In the middle of your... in Kayleen, for international listeners, is the land in which the Wholesome show is recorded.
Yeah, and it's possibly the biggest suburb in a square mile radius of itself. The article says, for example, when you talk about money, so there was a wheel built at National Harbour called the Capitol Wheel outside of Washington, D.C., and apparently opening...
It's outside of, though.
Yeah, on the edge of. In the vicinity.
I think you can call it edge of the Capitol wheel. Like oh,
that's true.
When you go on these
Capital
things, and they call it Capitol, and it's like, well, not really in the Capitol. I want to be able to, I want a wheel that you can almost kiss the Washington Monument with.
You can do that without a wheel. You can just walk up and kiss it.
No, I want to kiss the top. I'm a tip kisser, not a.
You're just a tip
not
guy?
not a shaft kisser. I'm a tip kisser.
You go for the top. That's fair. I got no beef for that. But see, if it's the capital wheel, but you're on the edge of it, then you can see more of the capital. If you're in the middle of it, maybe you see less.
You turn around.
No, you can't do that.
you have a body. You rotate your body.
This is not about turnaroundable
Right.
Ferris wheels.
Okay.
They don't spin that way.
But I don't. You know, there's people that buy tickets to whatever it is. The Ferris wheel of London, of Paris, of Rome, and then you go there and you go 100 kilometers outside, and I'm just looking at some friggin' trees.
Yeah, and it took me 2 hours to
I'm
get
rocked.
here.
Plenty of tourist attractions like that.
Yeah, no, apparently not these. Also, look, they reckon it's really good because they blend nostalgia, romance, the modern age, and social media beautifully because apparently from the London Eye, this is in 2014, hashtag London Eye on Instagram, nearly 600,000 hits.
Uh-huh.
Just people take, selfies.
Yeah, of course. I mean, who's not going to, if that's what you're into, it's also, it's a great photo and easy to hashtag.
Look, it's Instagram, there's a million photos a second. But apparently, at least in 2014, the London Eye was Britain's most popular paid-for tourist attraction.
Trying to think, though, what are the unpaid for ones that are actually good?
I haven't been to all of them. I've only been to London and then took a
Trafalgar
train to
Square
Scotland.
or something like that.
But still,
Outside Buckingham
if
Palace.
someone had said, in terms of paying for a tourist attraction, what do you think is England's most popular one? I wouldn't have even thought of that.
It's kind of tough, actually. Okay, Eiffel Tower, and you can pay for that because you can go there and you can have a look at it, but you can also pay for it and go up there. So I'm sure Eiffel Tower is absolutely huge.
The real experience of the Eiffel Tower is
But a
standing
lot
in
of
the
the other
queue.
ones, like say the Sydney Opera House, people want to go, I want to get my photo near the Sydney
Yeah.
Opera House. You can pay to go in there for the opera, but a lot of people are going there just to see the building. I don't know.
Anyway, so that's apparently a big deal. So, and there's some cynicism about this. So the wheels basically do the same thing, but as you kind of foreshadowed, each wheel shows you something different. You're in a different location, you can see different stuff, so that's a bit exciting.
Not about the wheel.
No, it's not about the wheel. Well, maybe it is. So they basically they conclude this with saying, so don't expect the Ferris wheel trend to end anytime soon. But so that's about the end. I want to talk about where it began.
Welcome to the Wholesome Show. Science stories for you to listen to while you go around in Ferris wheels
At the back of the class.
at the back of the class.
All my classes had Ferris wheels. All the good ones did. All were conducted on Ferris wheels. I reckon I would be chundering if I was looking down and looking up and writing on things. I reckon.
I do like you get an old school, and you may cover this, an old school traditional Ferris wheel where. So the London Eye, you're in an air-conditioned cabin. You can go there all season, stuff like that. Yeah. But the ones that are exposed, and you could sort of yell to the whole thing. You could try and do a class in there. You could try and do your classroom.
Some of those cabins get damn big.
The Wholesome Show is brought to you by the Australian National Centre for the Public Awareness of Science.
And spinning around, which is physics.
Do we say who we were?
No.
Let's not tell them. You're not allowed to know.
Keep it secret.
This is secret. Secret.
Secret Ferris wheel business.
I'm Will.
I'm Riddles. I spin round and round, and where I stop, no one will know.
Obviously, it was the ancient Egyptians.
No.
The ancient Egyptians, they had Ferris wheels to get up to the pyramids.
It's interesting because another reason I dug down in this story is because in the US, the origins of US Ferris wheels seem to be kind of parochial, a little bit messy. I know. Who would have thought?
Of course, is Monsieur Ferris. Monsieur Ferry.
No, we don't start with him at all.
No, he's got to be in here. He's got to be in here.
Why would you think that?
I think all French things are named after Monsieur Ferris, Monsieur Croissant, Monsieur... Monsieur...
Monsieur. No, so Ferris obviously stands for
Camel?
F is for iron, and Rus is for the element Ris de Bivlium.
Right.
That's what they used to be made out of. That's what it's not a name at all. It's chemical symbols.
Ris de Bivlium.
So at least in the USA, there's some questions. And God, it's funny. So when you dig into this, New Jersey has a very active and proud kind of public history underclass. Like they
what? Of Ferris wheel? Or in general?
In general, they are very proud. And there's a subset of them who are very proud of Ferris wheels and their connection to them.
Go you.
I know, it's just, I know New Jersey get bagged out in, reality shows and stuff a lot because they're intense people, or at least some of them are very intense. And it's interesting to see even these sort of, amateur history societies, they're still quite, let's just say, self-promoting and very proud.
Cool.
Very proud.
Yep.
So one source I saw from the Atlantic City, which is in New Jersey, they reckon actually the first one was built for a fair in Walton Springs in Georgia about 1848.
Okay, cool.
1848. So another one, and I love this site, it's called Petticoats and Pistols, which is delightful. It's supposed to be, Wild West, et cetera, et cetera. And they say, the Walton Springs thing was a thing about 1848, but it was a French guy called Antonio Mangiuino.
That doesn't sound the most French name.
Doesn't sound even remotely French.
You did put an Italian accent on it, though.
It's the only accent I know. That and Russian. And a little bit of Latvian and Australian, obviously. So they reckon he first brought the contraption to America. But they add... how do they put it? It seems to have its origins in a 17th century, quote, pleasure wheel, on which passengers rode in chairs suspended from large wooden rings turned by several strong men.
But I guess if you got some nice grease on the axle, it doesn't take a lot of heft to...
I'll show you a little
I do
picture.
like... It's very 19th century fairground. You've got the strong guys. They're wearing like leopard skin over the top, the muscle man.
Flesh-coloured neck to knee stuff with a what do you call it? A codpiece.
Loincloth.
And a big moustache. So apparently the wheels or swings, because there's some blurring, they were around at least since 1615 in Constantinople.
Okay, 1615.
Yeah.
And again, we're talking they're wood at this point.
I'll show you a picture in just one second. An amusing rendering. A Roman traveller who went to a Ramadan festival in Constantinople apparently saw what was described as a great wheel which swept him upwards and downwards with some enjoyable speed.
I don't know what it takes to be enjoyable in the 16th century. I mean, maybe how big are we talking?
This is a nice little picture.
Okay.
Not
okay.
Big. What have we got? 1, 2,
So
3,
maybe
4.
5 meters high.
Yeah, 8 people. All of them look exactly the same looking gentleman with a turban and a jutting beard.
And some strong men.
Some strong men turning the handle. Side note, if you look up pleasure wheel on Google, you don't just get these kinds of pleasure wheels.
Are you saying there's other things?
Holy shit, there's some other things. I mean, I thought I'd seen and heard it all, but I haven't. Well, maybe I have now. But if you're going to look up pleasure wheel, maybe do it at home, not at work.
Or put the safe search on, or whatever you want.
What's safe search?
I don't know. It's this thing.
Can you do that?
Yes, you can.
I don't know. Other sources, again, many from New Jersey, and as I say, they're very proud. They claim the first one was called the Summers Wheel, after William Summers.
Yeah.
So in 1891, he was a carpenter, and he was a member of one of the Jersey Shore's very prominent families. So Jersey Shore, again, reputedly extremely proud and protective of their own. He started a company to build what they called an observation roundabout on the boardwalk in Atlantic City.
That's cool.
So this is 1891. Allegedly, he came up with the idea in 1888, and he even patented a thing called the roundabout. But apparently, according to a book I didn't get to because it's very hard to find, but a lot of people talk about Ferris Wheels, a definitive illustrated history.
No doubt.
I mean, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Apparently, he didn't bother to build it for 3 years after he thought about it because he thought it would be too slow to get people on and no one would give a shit.
So I had an idea. I patented, but I never did it.
But why'd you do it? It's boring and dumb. So the first one he built was about 50 feet, diameter. So
okay, we're talking
15 meters.
That's pretty big.
15 meters, made of wood.
That's quite big.
You wouldn't want a bigger made of wood, I don't think. Like, I wouldn't feel comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
But, I'm easily discomforted.
I'll watch some other people on it first.
You never get version 1. So about 50 feet. Other possible, there may have been competitors or people at a similar time, and some of the names they gave them were awesome. So you got the epicycloidal diversion.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Mum, I want to write on the
What
epicycloidal
a name.
diversion.
What a name.
I know, the epicycloidal diversion.
Oh my God. Epicycloidal is definitely an injection you get.
In your epi-psych.
Yeah, exactly.
In case you've got the oids. There's also the cycloidal chariot.
The cycloidal chariot.
And my favourite is very specific, the mechanical amusement. Again, if you look that up, you're going to find stuff.
The mechanical amusement. You go to the fair, you go to the local fate, the fair, and there you go. I'm going for the mechanical amusement.
Come and ride the mechanical amusement. You never know what you might get.
If you... I'm imagining a slightly sinister looking guy. He's got a tent and it's dark inside and he's standing out the front. It's the mechanical amusement. And
do you want to ride the mechanical amusement? First ride's free.
No. You tell him it's going to be $10. and it's dark inside, and then
It's going to turn your head right around.
and no one comes out, and it's like, well, I want to know. I want to know what the mechanical amusement
When you go
is.
with a SWAT team, though, if no one's coming out, that might take away some of the fun.
Well, see, what happens in here is you get executed and literally boiled down to nothing, but it's mechanical.
Then you end up...
Mechanical amusement.
Yeah, I don't think that's very imaginative. At least the epicycloidal diversion and the cycloidal chariot.
No, I like mechanical amusement. That's...
We all do. But if someone said, would you like some mechanical amusement, I wouldn't think, Ferris wheel.
No, but I would think that I'm going to get some amusement. So whether it's touching me in the mechanical places or I'm being mechanized or whatever it is, I'm going to get some amusement out of the end of it. It doesn't sound negative.
So what I love about the Summers wheel, it was steam-powered, coal-fired, as loud as a train, and apparently spewed smoke and steam. So it was quite... I think you must have heard it before you saw it.
I kind of like the strongmen pulling it a bit better, but...
You like the strongmen pulling it as opposed to the... Again, look that up, strongmen pulling it. So regardless, people loved it.
Of course they did.
People were right into it. Particularly though... Sorry?
This is the Summers invention?
The Summers wheel.
Yep.
The Summers wheel.
So after he was no longer thought it was dumb, he thought his idea was good again.
Gave it a crack anyway.
Okay.
And people loved it despite the fact that it was like sitting next to a train and, I don't know, being spun above its smokestack. But it was particularly special to those people in Jersey because a lot of them may have never been into the city, never been on a skyscraper. So it might have been like the highest machine.
There weren't many skyscrapers then.
Late 1800s.
Okay, there's some tall buildings, I guess.
Yeah, and it's not like Jersey's a long way from New York, but apparently a lot of people hadn't.
We can see it, Ma. We can see it.
We're from Jersey and everything's great. So apparently it was very exciting because that's why they were calling them observation wheels because, it's amazing mankind can live at 50 feet above the earth.
How could we possibly breathe?
I know.
We need spacesuits this high.
Absolutely, whatever spacesuits are. In its second year, a gasoline lamp exploded and it burnt down. But that didn't stop people. They were still into it, and another one was already going up.
I hope people weren't on it when it
I think they would have mentioned that.
I mean, because that is truly horrifying. I think if you're in the lineup and you see it burning down, you're like, okay, I'm going to watch this. Yeah. But my God, the horror of...
I'd feel guilty like, do I have to pay to watch it? Is that part of the show?
Oh, my God.
You probably pay more to watch.
Yeah, I think they would have mentioned that. That would have been
nowhere did that come up.
The catastrophic Summers wheel disaster of
And I'm not surprised if it did happen. I wouldn't be surprised if the proud New Jerseyans didn't mention it. But
50 people. How many people? I mean, 50 feet
50
diameter.
Feet tall. So hang on, let's do the maths. Somewhere between none and 1 million people.
Cool. All right. So
I don't know. I didn't see the numbers. I mean, I had to go down some rabbit holes here, and some of them were very useful, and some of them weren't.
Okay.
And the numbers that went on this were not clear. So anyway, the first one burnt down due to an exploding gasoline lamp, but a second one must have already been going up. A week later in Asbury Park, which is also New Jersey, it was up, and people were happy to use it. So that's cool. They weren't put off. But now and then, mechanical amusements burned down. That's what
I think this is part of the
diversions.
I think a lot of things just burnt down.
Yeah.
I mean, things still do burn down, but I think it was an era of the burning down.
More popular back then.
A lot of wood, a lot of flame.
Yeah. Pretty much the perfect
oils
storm.
Everywhere. Everyone's covered in blubber and stuff like that.
Human excrement. I mean, but skin excrement. So that's great. But then we get to 1893. So there's going to be a World's Fair in 1893, and it's going to be hosted in Chicago.
Oh, of course, I know.
Yeah, you know it very well, right?
I know all of the dates of all of the World's Fairs.
Student of the World Fair. So Paris had hosted the one in 1889, so 4 years earlier, and they spent more than 2 years building the Eiffel Tower for it.
And Chicago is like, we got to do something pretty good here.
Yeah. So basically, the Eiffel Tower, depending on who you read, is about 300 metres tall.
I mean, depending on who you read.
It goes between 984 and 1,000 feet from what I found.
984 and 1,000. It doesn't stretch by 16 feet.
I don't know.
Oh, they're measuring it to the tip or the tip. Like it's like there's a flagpole.
The tip or the tip? Yeah,
there's a little...
Putting a flagpole cheating. How tall is it? 10, 11 metres.
There's actually strict rules for buildings on measuring their height, and it has to be part of the substantive structure.
Of course.
You can't just put spikes on the top to make it look taller.
It's 8 metre building. We bought 50 metre spikes. It's really big. No. So apparently it was the tallest human-made structure for roughly 4 decades. the Eiffel Tower. It cost roughly $1.5 million US, which is in today's dollars about half a gajillion.
Yes, good translations.
Roughly. So anyway, this is 1880.
It's pretty wild though. Like, I mean, cool on Paris. They built something and it's iconic. It's
awesome.
But also pretty wild to go, okay, so just for this World's Fair, we're going to build this wacky, tallest thing in the world. It's going to be right in the middle of town. It's going to be,
it's going to be 85,000 times taller than anything around it.
But we'll take it down again straight away. Like, I mean, were they?
They didn't take it down.
No, they didn't. But they were planning to. They were planning to.
Oh,
like, it was people said, no, keep it up. It's pretty cool.
A lot of people thought it was an eyesore. They got angry about it.
Of course they did, because they're like, anything higher than
Napoleon's
higher than my hair is terrible. It's
Yeah.
offending God. We're meant to have a really flat world.
This is why Very Tall Buffon became popular.
Exactly.
To try and beat the Eiffel Tower.
But I just, the idea that you would spend 2 years building something to just pull it down again afterwards, is a little bit disappointing.
It's insane. But wait. So that was 1889. So the 1893, 4 years later, the Chicago one was going to be actually called the World's Columbian Exposition.
Columbian.
Because it was celebrating 400 years since Columbus came and said, let's take this country.
Oh, okay.
I think that's paraphrase. So a lot of people were, of course, going, well, we're better than the French and let's prove it.
Mm-hmm.
So they wanted something spectacular. So in 1890, 3 years before, the Illinois government created the World's Columbian Exposition Corporation, or they licensed it to make it happen, and they made this guy called Daniel Burnham the big boss. Now, Burnham, according to, again, these historical societies, and I love this, they've gone back and quoted a 1964 story. They've reproduced it. So you can love all these old dears going, oh, this is nice, let's just pop it in the newsletter. Mm-hmm. So they popped it in, and a lot of the details come from this because it's fucking fascinating. The person who wrote this, Patrick Meehan, really was into this story.
Okay.
I cannot stress enough how into it he was. I think he was a civil engineer of some description back in the 60s, so he was 1960s, not 1860s.
It's a hobby.
It sure is. So apparently Burnham, this is the guy, Daniel Burnham, the big boss of the Exposition. He had the job of building something goddamn awesome on a
building something. Is he
something? That's what he was told.
Is that his brief?
Yeah, pretty much.
Just make it
Do something
stupendous.
awesome.
Here's your thing. You got to beat Paris. That's your number one goal. Whatever it is,
that's it.
Beat Paris.
Yeah, and depending on who you read, it suggests he was given basically autocratic powers. Like, you are just the boss.
I do feel like, maybe it's an undergraduate final year project in civil engineering or something like that. Okay, you imagine you are 1889. You've just come off the Paris World's Fair.
And
your job
is
now
to destroy the French.
Is beat that.
Destroy the French in building.
What do you do?
So they had good reasons for choosing him. He was the architect of the first, or some of the first, skyscrapers, like ever.
Okay.
So, good call. Like, get this guy.
But skyscraper, the sky was a lot lower back then, so scraping the sky was much easier.
Bigger.
Not that I've built a skyscraper. I don't doubt they did a great job.
I built a cubby house and put a 900-meter pole on it.
Nice.
Is that a skyscraper?
900-meter pole is a very good erection.
Very hard to get up.
Yeah.
So very early on, though, he was excited. He was into it. As I said, autocratic powers. He got worried that no one was really inspired amongst the US civil engineering crowd. They were kind of like, yeah, we don't give a shit. We're not going to do it.
Well, okay, but yeah, he's getting all the glory. So why would someone else join in?
Because maybe they could go, actually, it's my glory. Look what I have done. So he went and spoke to a mob called the Saturday Afternoon Club, which sounds so very gentle personally.
I don't know. There's a lot of, everyone has Saturday afternoons. Like it's.
Do you go to the club on Saturday afternoon?
No, but everyone does something on a Saturday afternoon. Not the same thing every time.
Not me. I lie in stasis until Monday.
You just don't have any.
I literally just lie.
You go from Friday afternoon and back to work Monday morning.
All I give a shit about is going to work. I think about it when I'm in stasis. So he went. So this is a group of architects and engineers who were at least somewhat interested in the World's Fair. So they'd get together and go like, what you got going on?
Saturday afternoon, it's Talk About the World's Fair Club. Why didn't they call it that?
I don't, because it's on Saturday afternoon.
And one day it will be in Brisbane. One day.
Yeah, and it'll be Saturday afternoon.
Yeah.
When we talk. But it's only, the focus was on architects and engineers. So he basically said, look, this thing's going to blow people away.
Just a tiny
Brisbane
aside.
Expo?
Same sort of era. So 1896 was the first Olympics.
Modern Olympics.
Your first modern Olympics. Obviously, when Hercules did his Olympics and he got the gold medal in everything, sheep shearing and pulling trees and stuff like that.
Sheep eating
and
sheep
cleaning out
juggling.
the stables. Obviously, that's the modern Olympics, 1896. But for the first, I don't know, maybe like 5 Olympics, like up until 1912 or something like that. They had a whole bunch of sports that we wouldn't consider sports. They had stuff like architecture.
Reading.
I don't know about reading. They had architecture, but reading would be great. So
Architecture. I'm an Olympic architect.
yeah, they were.
What does that mean? I don't know.
They were. So the Olympics were a little bit different. So they might have been competing in that. So they're thinking, okay, we could get this to the Olympics.
Look, mate. Well, what are we talking? Yeah, very close to those Olympics. The world's the what is it? The World Expo gold medal.
Yeah.
How many have there been? Well, since the last medal, 1. So you won. Assuming you have to give it for fresh ones, maybe you give it for old ones.
Maybe I'll drill into that one day.
So yeah, obviously they needed to blow people away, so he pulled together a team of high quality.
What would you do? What would you do? What is
would I
your
do?
And you're limited by late 19th century technologies. What is your this will fucking blow people away?
Wow, I think I'd make it out of people.
Of course, yes.
I would go to a country that has no power, guns, or understanding of what we do, and I would build it out of human beings, out of bodies.
So you're going straight to genocide.
People would be amazed.
They would. I know. Wow.
You didn't say ethics was an issue.
Wow. That's where you go.
Can you beat that? I bet they talk about mine more than anything you came up with.
Look, they would talk about yours. That's
true. And that would be 18th century possible.
Yeah.
I mean, 19th century possible. Come here, humans. You're about to make history. You just won't be alive. So yeah, Burnham. I've already got his. No, it is Burnham. Burnham said, "Look, we got to blow people away," and he instructed people he instructed all the folk he wanted to do it. Quote: "Make no little plans.
Make no little plans.
Make no little plans."
Does he even whatever he's doing?
Yeah.
There's got to be some little plans. Like you got to say, okay.
No, make none. He doesn't want to hear them.
Each of the rivets is going to need to join across like this. Let's have
you
close,
have wasted my time.
Zoom.
You've wasted my life. You are fired. Get out of my sight.
All I want is big picture plan.
Be gone with you.
Give me. It's got to be continental scale maps.
Yep.
And I want to see my thing on that. That's the smallest you're allowed to do.
Anything smaller is wasting my time. The French have already done it. The French have talked about.
They've done
details.
small. We're going to do not small.
The French are detailed. The Germans even worse. So yeah, no little plans. There are a bunch of suggestions. Here are some of my faves. Build a big tower with rails for people to toboggan home to, quote, distant cities. I know. So you're in Chicago, you've got a tower, I don't know how high, there are rails, you get on it and you get zinged back to, I don't know,
New York. Though, taking a toboggan from Chicago to New York would be a wild, wild ride. But you know what, I was talking to someone the other day about skydiving. And
oh, they should have done that.
And well, no, I've skydived in the tandem with the instructor strapped.
You nearly said in the nude.
Not in the nude, no, strapped to my back or whatever it is, or my front, or I can't remember.
Yeah, strapped to a person.
And so I haven't done proper skydiving when you're in control of your all of the levers,
bodily functions.
Yeah. So I don't doubt that it's different like that.
Yeah.
But I remember I was talking to them and I was like, yeah, no, it was great, it was good. And they're like, were you scared? And I was like, well, not. It was okay.
They would have been so let down.
But they're like, what's it like? And I was like, well, to be honest, it was a little bit boring. Like I got there, you jump out of the plane, and then you're like, cool, all right. So I'm looking at the beach. Wow. And
it gets closer eventually.
Yeah, cool.
And jerked then briefly.
Cool, and we landed. That was really interesting. So I imagine you're taking a toboggan. You're taking a toboggan from Chicago to New York, and you're like the start, and you're like, whoa, I'm going fast. This is cool. Yeah, it's still a long ride.
How many hours has it been? Mum, I need to go to the bathroom.
Is there a toilet in the back of this toboggan?
My eyes have dried out.
Is there a drinks trolley?
No one warned me my eyes would dry out. My God, those paratrooper instructors must have been like, watch, this guy's going to shit himself. What did you think? Yeah, I fell asleep.
I absolutely expect if you're in charge of your own life and death in pulling that's a very different thing. But see, there was the instructor, the tandem guy, just going, all right, I'm going to do all this for you. And I'm like, cool, all right, you take charge, and I'm the passenger. And so I felt a little bit like I'm on it's not the same as flying the plane. I'm just a passenger. So
well, you were. That's true. That's astute. Another one suggested some kind of, it seems to be like an early version of a bungee jump, but you do it in an enclosed car with some sort of stretchy cord. So you put a bunch of you in a box and then throw you off and hope it rebounds.
And rattle.
And apparently, I only found this in one source. Eiffel himself chimed in and proposed an even bigger Eiffel Tower.
I have designs for it.
Let's make it, I don't know, 500 feet taller.
But he's like, I'm famous for this. I can sell my towers.
Yeah. I don't think he did. I think that I may be wrong, but that might have been it for him.
Yeah, but I'm saying he might
What
have.
did he do after that?
Oh, he lived in the tiny little shack he made at the top.
Did he?
Yeah, he made himself a little apartment in the top of the Eiffel Tower.
That'd be bloody awesome.
No, it's still there. It's
Especially
still there.
with
and
the
it's
cranky, what do you call it? The stereo
gramophone.
grams. Yes,
yeah, so I'm sure he could. Yeah. He didn't know it was Paris's only. He thought this was just the first of many. Like,
but you just imagine it. Oh, yes, Eiffel, what do you want? Let's build, let me guess, another tower. Oui, another tower. So that Burnham was apparently quite underwhelmed, and he cursed them for failure of imagination.
Well, what about his imagination? Is he just the bureaucrat looking
He is
for...
the boss.
Submit ideas to me.
He's the boss. He's not the ideas guy. He's the motivation dude. So he said they wanted...
And hang on. And he said no to the toboggan. Like, the toboggan guy is an ideas guy. That is...
I agree, but I think he probably went, okay, can we talk about how you're going to do that? He's like, I hadn't got that far.
All right, so everyone else, crappy ideas. This guy, he's like, okay, you have great ideas.
But nah.
Can't do it.
Show us your tolerances. Like, oh yeah, what we need to do is invent a whole new arm of physics and metallurgy. He's like, oh, well, we can't do that. Not straight away. So he said apparently he wanted something novel, original, daring, and unique. Mm-hmm. Luckily for him, at the meeting of the Saturday Arvo Club was a 32-year-old chap called George Washington Gale Ferris.
That's a great name.
George Washington Gale Ferris. Which is pretty cool. Yeah.
I really thought Monsieur Ferris. There you go.
No, he was born in Galesburg, Illinois.
Gale from Galesburg.
Yeah, that was not a coincidence. So he was born, 1859, so 30-odd years before. No coincidence. So the town was founded by his namesake, George Washington Gale. Original. Every boy there's called George Washington Gale, then your surname. And every girl's called Georgina Washington Gale. And
Washingtonina.
Yeah.
Washingtonina.
Washingtonette.
Yeah, okay. Gale.
Washlet. So he was born there, but when he's 5, his family moved to Nevada, a town called Carson Valley. And they're famous houses. They seem to have lived in at least 2 famous houses that have been national trusted and still are today. He didn't necessarily build them.
In what way? Like just
this is a
grand architectural
house of significance for some reason. The one shot I saw of the one in Carson Valley, it didn't look amazing. It just looked old. I mean, well kept. Of significance to the local people. Maybe that's why the local history buffs were so into this whole thing. I don't know. He went to a California military academy. It seemed he was there for a year and graduated, and I couldn't find much else on that.
Oh.
He got but this doesn't really matter.
Obviously, in the military academy is where you learn all about the Ferris wheel. So
yeah.
The Civil War, American Civil War. I mean, I know for entertainment, Ferris wheels became famous with the story you're telling, but surely in the Civil War there was a lot of, and then we'll roll this Ferris wheel sort of across the.
Well, you've heard of the Trojan horse.
Yeah.
The Trojan Ferris wheel was a modern adaptation that worked very well down in Gettysburg. But that's another story for a history podcast. So he got a civil engineering degree in 1881, and he began a career in the railroad industry. He was also interested in bridge building, and he seemed to have messed around with mines a little bit early as well.
Okay.
Doesn't matter. He founded the GWG Ferris and Co. company, and they wanted
George Washington Gale Ferris and Co. Yeah.
Look at you can just,
I
you just
worked it out. I remember
your memory.
I get it.
It's because it's early in the day. They were one of the first professional mobs. I don't know if they were the first, but amongst the first to actually offer testing and inspection of materials and structures for railroads and bridges. So they're actually going, let's see if this materials are good, if they're right and fit for purpose, etc.
Okay.
Until that time, I suppose they just
try stuff,
chuck it up,
have a look at that tree. Looks
send
fine.
a poor person over it. If they lived, then it was okay.
Well, that's testing. You're not saying that
true.
this isn't their version of testing. They might have been the ones who invented send the canary poor person across.
You do have me at a disadvantage there. That could be true. Fuck, that probably is. That's terrible. No, I think he was more engineerish than that. So it turns out his company were doing metal inspections on the steel to be used at the fair.
Oh, the Chicago Fair.
The Chicago Columbian
And
Exposition.
he says, we have some ideas here.
So he heard about the need for something fab, and he said, why don't we build a humongous observation wheel? So here's where some of the controversy starts. So how did he come up with the idea? So the popular story apparently is that he was at a Chicago restaurant. Others have called it a steakhouse. I don't know why that matters, but apparently it does.
It really doesn't.
And apparently, some stories say he built it. He designed it on the back of a napkin, and no changes were made from that original brainstorm.
No changes were. Well, there you go. It goes with the. I don't care about any of the details.
None.
Just slap all of the details together.
You said you wanted
so
a
long
big
as
plan.
it looks like this.
Yeah. Here, Burnham, you said you wanted a big plan. And one alleged quote from Ferris was, "Before the dinner was over, I had sketched out almost the entire detail, and my plan has never varied an item from that day."
Editing is for losers,
isn't it though? And like there are some sources that suggest he may have designed it 5 or 6 years earlier and just chose this quiet moment to, voila, my big reveal.
Still, waiting for the right timing is not a terrible thing. Like this,
No, of course not.
Sitting around on your idea and like one day it might, and then Chicago wants this.
You walk into the local, I don't know, ice creamery and say, "What we need is a humongous Ferris wheel," and they're like, "We just don't know what you're talking about."
Yeah, exactly.
Well, they again,
Ideas need
wheel.
timing.
Observation wheel, though it wasn't Ferris at the time.
Of course. Sorry.
So my favourite source says he was struck by a brainstorm and quickly sketched a huge revolving steel wheel. After adding specifications, he shared the idea with Burnham, who balked at the slender rods that would carry people to a height taller than the recently opened Statue of Liberty.
Hey, that is tall.
Yeah.
I don't know how tall the Statue of Liberty is, but
it's bigger than the previous Ferris wheels.
Yeah, okay.
And the only quote from Burnham that I could find anywhere was, "Too fragile."
Okay.
So, of course, according to many of the New Jersey types that I saw, the historians, etc., Ferris stole the idea from Summers. And apparently, they argue that Ferris rode Summers' wheels and got his inspiration from that. But others say, well, sure, but Summers' wheels was only 50 feet high, made of wood.
Yeah, it's different because it's bigger.
Yeah,
and made of
not
something
made of
different.
wood.
And the whole wheel thing, that's just a coincidence. Like,
it's not like you invented the wheel, mate.
And what about those Constantinople people?
They didn't care. This is America.
Still.
In America. In Merca. So his is going to be metal and, like more, therefore not the same. So the wheel. He spent $25K of his own money. So he commissioned safety studies. He probably ran them. He hired young, inventive engineers, blah, blah, blah. And he would spruik to investors because he needed cash. 25 grand was not enough to build this. We'll get to what
he said the Eiffel Tower cost $1 million. $1.5 million at the time.
In the day.
So whatever it is, it's going to be in that scale. You're not getting something grander than the Eiffel Tower for $25K.
No.
You're just not. Whatever $25K buys you.
If you made something that large out of toothpicks, though, I think that would be spectacular.
Still is going to cost you more. Still going to cost you more.
Yeah, it's a lot of toothpicks. So apparently, even though it was a depression at the time, he managed to pull together something like, depending on who you believe, $600,000.
All right.
And this was helped because one mob said Ferris possessed handsome looks and a knack for self-promotion. Within weeks, he was famous.
Sure.
So he's a bit of a spunk and he self-promoted.
Yeah, that's not great.
No, it's not. I mean, we get away with it.
I know, I get it. You got to sell a vision here.
Absolutely. No,
you don't want like the most depressive engineer type.
I've got an idea. It's a bit shit, really expensive, but
give me a lot of money.
Anyway, just sorry about the pus on my face and having one arm that's gross. Yeah.
They could still be charismatic with the pus on their face.
Hey, I'm pus guy.
Don't worry about it.
Seen so much
pus? I got a vision for you. Don't worry about the pus.
I got one question. Do you know anyone with more face pus than me? No? Boom.
See if you can get past it. If you can get past it, make it part of your story. You go, look, I am that guy, and then sell your vision.
It's a feature, not a bug. So he was apparently very persistent. Yeah, I mean, and the quote about him being attractive and stuff, it's hard to say whether it was a criticism or not, but because it comes from a Jersey source, it probably was. But it's hard to say. It's in writing and it's old. So he ended up.
Are they jealous of him at this point?
I don't know if at this point it was happening because these are sort of retro histories. So I don't know if at the time people were aware of this. There was less internet, and the news didn't seem to really get onto this as much until the thing was created.
Okay, fair enough.
As far as I'm aware. So he had specifications, he had money, so he went to the Exposition Ways and Means Committee, so American. Mm-hmm. And this is my favorite, probably my favorite quote. His ideas were treated as those of a lunatic, and he became known as the man with wheels in his head. Damning. The engineers and architects of the Saturday Afternoon Club believed he was making a fool of himself, as they loudly proclaimed that his wheel could not be built or, if it could not be operated.
No strong man would be able to turn this thing. It'd be impossible.
No. How many men do you need? We're going to need 8 million strong men.
Yeah, that's we
and a
can't
very long
fund
handle.
that many strong men.
Yeah, it's physically impossible. But apparently Ferris was really persistent, and he kept going and going. And so in December of 1892, he got the thumbs up. So the deal was the Ferris Wheel Company, not Ferris Wheel, Ferris Wheel Company.
Oh, it's about wheels.
And it's about timing, not Ferris Wheel.
Yeah, I'm just one of the guys.
Yeah. It's just one of the things, I have a Ferris company.
I do Ferris testing and Ferris wheeling.
Yep.
So this is
squares, Ferris chair, doesn't do any of that. So apparently the deal was they would get 300,000 from the ticket sales, up to the first 300,000. Then after that, they would get half of the gross, and the other half would go to the Exposition company.
Oh, of course. I mean, that's the
Standard deal.
Yeah,
That's the deal I'd always make when I do anything.
Yeah, the Kaleen wheel is going to get
300,000
like
to the Kaleen Wheel Company first.
Yeah.
So specifications, here's where it's fun. So the wheel was to be 250 feet in diameter, so about 76 meters.
Damn. Okay.
It's a lot more than 50.
It's getting big.
Just 5 times bigger.
Can you do you have the scale of some of these modern wheels like the London?
Yeah,
Eye?
I'll get to
okay, cool.
That's the surprise. Well, it's not surprising. That's the wrap up. I'll get you to that.
Yeah,
so
no, cool.
250 feet, 76 meters. The axle, I thought I'd calculated it wrong, but I double checked. So the axle that ran through the middle, 89,000 pounds, so 40,000 kilograms.
40 tons.
The axle. It's insane.
But that's a big bit of metal.
Fucking
That's a
oath.
big bit of metal.
Yeah. And apparently at the time it was the largest hollow forging that had ever been done. So they had to get special companies. Had all these different companies.
Yeah, no doubt.
So it was
That's cool.
14 meters long.
We're scaling up very quickly here.
Very quickly. Yeah.
From 50 feet made of wood to I'm going to make something
5 times bigger in metal.
Stupendously much bigger. Yeah. It's not like we went, okay, let's another foot.
No small ideas.
Like this is a lot. All right.
No little ideas, or whatever the quote was. Burnham got what he wanted, or at least the plan. So yeah, it was 14 meters long, about a meter in diameter.
A meter in diameter. That's a big bit of metal. And it's hollow?
Hollow forging.
Still.
That alone, I mean, what it reminds me of, years ago, like 2001, I think, I was at a conference at CERN when they were still building the Large Hadron Collider.
Indeed, as was everyone.
And they took us on a tour to one of the spots. I think it was called the Atlas site. There's a few spots where you can actually take measurements and dive down into it. And that in itself is colossal. Like, it was just insane. But they gave us a talk first, and they basically say to companies who could build elements of it, here's what we need. Here are our plans. If you can build it, you have the IP. Just use it. We don't give a shit. And I think that's partially good people, but also what else are they going to use it for?
Oh, totally.
Another Large Hadron Collider.
But it shows, when you're at the edge of manufacturing like that, it's like, all right, that's going to be like I always remember, you go and visit like medieval castles in I remember some in India and some in Europe and stuff like that, and they've got this is the world's largest cannon in 1300 or something like that, and it's a giant piece of metal, and it's actually to forge that kind of thing before modern industrial processes.
Yeah, the effort, the resource, the money or equivalent would have been just amazing, absolutely mind blowing. So this thing was huge. It was put on 2 towers which were pretty much 43 meters tall. Mm-hmm. There were 36 cars to go on it. Each would hold up to 60 people. So in metric, that's about 300 people.
Point of order, for those 19th century people, the word car now for us means like you drive on the road. Like that's a car. And I know like railway nerds are like, no, they're cars.
It's a train car.
Behind a train, or in a train of cars behind the engine.
Behind the engine, yes.
Yeah, I think thank you for railway nerds. But no, like go back in time. The word car means car. Brum brum car, drive it on the road. An elevator is not a car.
No, they're cars.
No,
they call them cars.
They're not. I know they did, but they're wrong.
Okay, people boxes.
The people boxes.
People suspension boxes. So up to 60 people in each. So the max would be, if it was fully loaded, 2,160 people.
Wow. Wow. Oh, wow.
No. Like, what?
I don't want to hang in a little box with 60 people as well.
Do you know what each car weighed? Have a guess.
I'm guessing it's in the 10, 20 tons.
12,000 kilos, yeah.
Yeah.
12 tons.
12 tons. Jesus.
So the total weight, if it was full, in old school tons, would have been nearly 1,200 old school tons. There are more than 100,000 parts, which in metric is still 100,000.
Yeah, cool.
Which is good.
Haven't changed numbers like that.
No, they haven't changed that. But apparently also, and I only found one reference to this, but I don't know. There's only so much you can look into. But apparently he was very possessive of his plans, so there are no originals of the plans or the specs.
The napkin
in existence. No one kept the napkin or the envelope, whatever it was.
Well, obviously he was going to sell this to a lot of other people, so I'll keep it in my head.
Maybe Bussink got it.
He can see Mr. Eiffel going around, Monsieur Eiffel going around, and he's like, oh man, this guy's selling all of his towers around.
Have you considered a bigger wheel?
And he's like, you know, this is my thing. I'll be the wheel guy. Keep it on my head.
So construction, they had 4 months from once it was approved to get it done in time for the exposition. So heaps of subcontracts, like I said, people doing all kinds of different bits and pieces, as well as people physically just working on the site. It was a shitty winter, a very shitty winter in Chicago. The ground was either kind of sandy and full of moisture or boggy. It's perfect.
They sound like the same thing. It's just
but
like you got some sandy sections and some clayey sections. So it's sandy mud or clayey mud. So
sandy mud's easy to wash off your boots.
It's rough to build in.
Oh, very rough. So they had pumps running day and night, and they used to pipe steam to keep the frozen sand thawed.
Oh my god!
And then to stop the concrete from freezing before it's set properly. So this is a colossal undertaking.
Oh my god!
Colossal undertaking. They had a purpose-built power plant.
Live a little bit warmer. Like find somewhere a little bit warmer than where you need to pump steam.
I don't know why it had to be in Chicago. I'm sure there are reasons.
Chicago's probably a great city, and yeah, no doubt. But the idea of you got to pump steam to actually be able to do your building,
to build something colossal and also ultimately frivolous. Although beating the
Stop
French
it. All
is
life,
never frivolous.
all life is frivolous.
Whoa, come in.
There's nothing else, man.
I want to think about that.
Who cares?
We are but frivolity. Actually, I don't disagree with that. We are but frivolity. So they had to build a purpose-built power plant. It was about 200 metres away. It was just outside the grounds of the exposition itself. There were 10-inch steam pipes that ran 2,000 horsepower reversible engines. So they were used to drive the wheel. The first was used to drive the wheel, and the second was an emergency reserve engine.
100 strong men in leather outfits would be way more fun.
Well, if it's 1,000 horsepower, how many strong men do a horse? 4?
Oh, yes, at least 4.
So 4,000 strong men.
That would be great. All in leopard
with the big moustaches and going hop hey hop oh hey jolly good sir.
I would go on that more because of that.
I'd go to watch them.
Seriously, if that was the advertising, it's a giant with 4,000 strongmen.
4,000 strongmen dressed in oldie-timey clothes.
He's a muscle man.
Yeah, actually, I'd go to that too. So yeah, one of the engines was just in reserve in case things went tits up, and they're very specific, a Westinghouse air brake, because you had to be able to stop it.
Okay.
Westinghouse is apparently significant at the
time.
They were
big in air brakes.
Oh, yeah. They were. That's all they did. Ferris wheel air brakes. So it was a freaking big deal. Like this was no small undertaking at all. And did it work?
Please say yes.
Totally worked.
Yes.
First time. Totally worked. Awesome. So they fired it up in June of 1893, and they put on a huge show. They had dignitaries and bands. Ferris's wife apparently handed him a golden whistle to blow to get it started. And the band, they say, played America, which I don't think is the song that I think of.
It's God Save the Queen. I don't know why God Save the Queen is called America, but it is.
Maybe it's Majesty or America.
Yeah, I don't understand. I mean, there must be something in that.
I just love that it worked. I'm so impressed because I was thinking that too. Like,
of course, your other version of this story, and then it rolled off the towers,
killed
and
everyone.
Crushed Chicago, and that's the great.
It kept going into the next state.
The wheel crushing of Chicago in
ran for 400 miles, and it killed everyone in its path, and some onlookers died of shock.
But little Gary got home to New York on his toboggan that was on top of the wheel, so
he was over the top of it going, "Jesus, mister." So that's cool. It ran for 19 weeks because that was the duration of the exposition. It was 50 cents for a 20-minute ride, which in today's dollars is, I don't know, $800. Probably less. 50 cents, 20-minute ride. So a ride was 2 turns. The first turn, it stopped 6 times to load people up, and then you got a 9-minute
and then you get a fast turn.
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
9-minute full twirl.
That's nice.
And they reckon you could, on a clear day, see as far as Wisconsin, Indiana, and Michigan. Now, I don't have a scale. I don't know what that means, but it sounds impressive. Because they were in Illinois, and you could see 3 other states in theory.
I'm going to look at a map later.
Yeah.
I'm going to see.
Wouldn't you? The estimates range in that time somewhere between 1.4 and maybe up to 1.6 million people rode it.
Oh, that's cool.
Shitload of people. So I think it's probably about 1.4 with ticket sales, and then there were extras, freebies.
Or who's not going to do it? I mean, you go to the World's Fair, and there's going to be a whole bunch of crappy stuff. Like, I don't know, the Italian embassy has brought a big bowl of pasta or something. I don't know. What do they bring to these things?
I could eat some pasta.
What do they bring to these things? But then there's the giant wheel.
Here's the cheese. It looks like the Ferris wheel.
I remember the Western Australian exhibition in
Western Australia?
In Brisbane. No, the West, because it was all nations except for in Australia there was.
I had your own pavilions for your parochials.
For within Australia, you had the Western Australian Pavilion, the New South Wales Pavilion, stuff like. And Western Australia had a lump of gold. This was the story.
Fake. It was fake.
This is the story that my friends always told me, and I was how old was I? I was 9 at the time. I was like, okay, this is totally true.
Got to be true.
Maybe it's not true. Who knows?
If you were told,
but it was down in the bottom of this tube sort of thing, and it's like you can only get one arm in. That's all. You can get one arm in there, and it's like if you can pick up the lump of gold, you can take it home.
Fuck yeah!
And there's like all these, and it's so heavy. You're just like. That's so cool.
Mom, I got you a lump of gold.
Oh, you can just imagine as a 9-year-old, it's just like, it's so heavy, it's so cool, and then you can get it, but you can't. I don't know if it was ever true.
Jerks. It's like those claw machines where you could pick up the big teddy bear, but the claws, of course, can't even hold air.
Who is doing that as your exhibition, though? Here is my amazing lump of gold. Let's let everyone touch it. And
it's gold. It's probably okay.
I don't know.
I don't think it melts from human oils.
You're trying to pull a bit off? I don't know.
Oh, that would have been clever. Mini explosive. Shaped charges. The size of a fingernail. So where did we get to? Oh, yeah, the ride gave people, this is a quote from some reporter at the time, the ride gave people access to an aerial phenomenon few had ever beheld. It is an indescribable sensation. A guy called Robert Graves said, that of a revolving through such a vast orbit in a bird cage. That sounds like it's describable.
It did really sounds described. That's fine. I mean, that's the job of the journalist.
Bird cage, though, that doesn't make me go, ooh.
What else?
Couldn't you say, I don't know, a magnificent viewing
car in the viewing car? Birdcage
that weighs 12,000 kilos. So it drew a lot of attention. There was a lot of kerfuffle, a lot of amazement. Some people basically bought tickets and sent out invitations because they wanted to get married on it, but they were denied.
No.
Oh yeah.
They were denied getting married on it?
Yeah, they were allowed to get married in the Ferris Wheels company offices, though, near it.
but you can come to our. Why couldn't they get married on it?
I don't know.
You can do your ceremony in 20 minutes.
Here's a quote. Oh, yeah, but since the company was not seeking notoriety, they wouldn't do it.
Would that be and people were married on it, and then they were fucking right there.
The scandal.
Right there.
Yeah,
what is the problem?
I only found one.
It's not like
one mob talking about.
It's not like you have to get nude and do something indecent instantly.
But if we want to, can we?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm probably not in. I don't know. But still, that's not what marriage. I know that's what marriage implies, but it's.
Didn't you get married naked and just basically have sex during the ceremony?
Yes, of course. But this is
ditto.
The 2000s.
Ish. Modern times.
Modern time. But seriously, what's the problem of having a wedding in a Ferris wheel? That's cool.
The only place I found it said was because the company did not seek notoriety, which I think.
I get it. They're selling enough tickets as it is. It's what's the advantage?
It's a strange call. There are also some bullshit stories that circulated. One of them. The wheel was stopped for hours and a bunch of people were, trapped in the upper cars for some time.
Yeah.
Oh, the scandal.
Yeah, they turned into, I don't know, a pack of ravenous dogs that ate each other.
Alien
cannibals.
High altitude devolution.
Look, it wouldn't be great in that sort of time.
No, but allegedly, I only found one reference to that, so I doubt that happened. My favourite is apparently a dog, and specifically a pug, leapt out an open window and fell to its death.
Oh.
That didn't happen.
Oh.
But I love it as a pug fell to, actually it was his death. It had to be a boy. It had to be
We've sexed it. Look, it's a boy.
That squashed. Anyway, so those seem to be bullshit. But of course, something that's spectacular, there's going to be stories and rumors, and it's newspaper times and not much else. So the payoff, the exposition closed on the 1st of November in 1893. So let's say about 19 weeks after it opened. Gross earnings were $750,000.
For the wheel?
Yeah. Close enough. A bit under $750,000. So $500,000 to go to the Ferris company, which is nearly $400,000 in profits.
Hey, good on them. That sounds good.
In theory.
What?
So the fair closed. And apparently this is the best way of putting it. I couldn't paraphrase. Ferris became immersed in a tangle of wheel-related lawsuits about debts he owed suppliers and that the fair owed him. So shit got messy.
Oh, okay. Oh.
So this is November in 93, and the wheel was unused until April of the next year.
I assume in this old-timey world they didn't actually think about the pulling it down costs.
What do we do next?
I feel like you kind of need to spend a bit of money.
Well, I wonder when I read this, why wouldn't you keep using it? Wouldn't people still want to come? Apparently not.
It's a...
But you'd think, come to Chicago, ride the monster wheel that makes Eiffel look like a pissant, at least briefly.
I don't know.
But for whatever reason, so they it just sat there until April. So for months it sat there. And then they found a new site for it. So it took them 86 days and they pulled it apart.
Oh, damn, though. New site for something like that. It's not going to be easy to move.
What are you doing? 86 days, so they had to build huge scaffolding around it.
And is this still in Chicago?
No.
Okay, all right. So at least it's moving cities. Like, it's not just we moved it 20 meters
next
away.
door, yeah. Can you shuffle it over? It's blocking my view. So this was, what did I say, 1894. So in the middle of 1895, as it was put, re-erection started. And that was July. So by October, it was ready again. And the new site was near Lincoln Park.
Still Chicago.
Not the band.
Well, no, that Lincoln Park's in
Illinois.
Chicago. Like it's on there. I don't know where it first was, but didn't Obama do his final his first announcement in Lincoln Park?
Oh yeah, no, I've always said that.
There you go.
Yeah, for sure.
That's my American geography for you.
I'm glad you knew because I just saw Lincoln Park and went, I don't know where that is. So still Chicago.
But it's not spelt like Lincoln Park, the band.
No, way less cool. And there's no, and apparently the site was about 20 minutes from major hotels, big railway station, etc. So it was kind of well situated. So the directors of the company...
you're saying that's good?
Yeah, because that could be...
20 minutes from major hotels is good.
At the time, because then you could take a trolley car.
Okay.
Or perhaps a hansom cab.
I had thought you'd want to be closer.
Yeah, it's a big wheel. In the 1800 towns weren't as tall as they are today.
And they walked very slow. I'm sure they were.
They had to because the boots hurt. One family would share the same boots. So the directors of the company, they sold bonds in the company, and they wanted to use the money to landscape the grounds, build restaurants, some kind of pavilion for a band, a vaudeville theatre, and to paint the thing up and make it look shiny and nice.
It wasn't shiny and nice before?
Well, maybe shinier and nicer. I haven't been lying around for a while unused. But apparently, how did they put it? It is doubtful if many of these improvements were made, particularly because at one point there were wealthy neighbours in the area of Lincoln Park, and they sued to try and prevent it going up because, ruin the view, etc. But they failed. However, they did manage...
The neighbours failed?
They failed to block it.
Okay.
But they did, or people related to them, managed to stop being a Ferris or the organisation being able to sell booze near the wheel, which took away some of the fun. So a bunch of all the improvements they wanted to do didn't materialise, and apparently neither did the patrons. So it started to lose a shit ton of money, like $700,000 apparently went away.
Oh, so you made $400,000 profit, which was hard to get even in the World's Fair, and then suddenly you're losing $700,000.
Yeah. So by the middle of 1903, it was still $400K in debt, but that's cool because Ferris had died in 1896, so he died years before.
I mean, that's
cool.
I don't know if that's nice for him. It's not nice for him.
We didn't have to go through that. At least he got out of his debts.
Great. Great. So that's what death is. Death is escaping from debts.
Death and taxes. But taxes via death.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So apparently, and I love this too, most say he died of, I think, typhoid, but others have said tuberculosis. So a tea-related illness.
Cool. Just pick any disease with T. Tetanus, Tiberia.
Yep. Tangible disease.
Yeah, excessively tanned.
Oh, yeah, it's true.
I'm sure you can die of that.
You do. It's called melanomas.
Yeah.
So he died in 1896. He was 37.
Oh.
And bankrupt, obviously.
Still, though, he achieved all right.
Well, we're talking about him, in this 8 billion listener program. Yeah. And there's only one New Jersey source. I love it. Their quote was... After this, his ashes remained in the care of a Pittsburgh undertaker for more than a year because no one would pay the $150 for a funeral.
Oh.
It's only one said that, and it was one of the New Jersey sources. So, they did not drop the grudge.
Mm.
But what about the wheel?
You're going to tell me, and then they moved it to Brisbane?
Yep. No, I'm just going to, what about the wheel and leave it hanging?
No, tell me.
So it ended up being moved to St. Louis
Oh, okay.
for the Louisiana Purchase Exposition of 1904.
So this is an official World's Fair?
It's the Louisiana Purchase Exposition. I don't know if you're supposed to celebrate the colonial carving up of lands, but maybe, I suppose.
They bought the rest of the land cheap from the French, which was legit because the French
they did the stealing, not
they did
them.
the stealing.
Yeah,
so this is just on selling stolen goods.
You make a strong
on
point.
selling stolen goods. What's the problem here?
But Your Honour, I didn't take it.
Yeah, this ain't traditional colonialism.
I bought it legit, bro. So it took 95 men and 72 days to move it, which isn't bad.
Pushing it slowly down the road.
Just keep rolling. Don't let go.
Yeah.
You're at the front.
Yeah, you have it on a big leash, and you sort of,
do
if it
not
gets
let
too
go.
fast going down a hill.
Because once this fucker picks up momentum, we're gone. But it didn't seem to make the profits they'd hoped, and at the end of the exposition, people were complaining it was an eyesore. It fell into disuse.
What a surprise.
I know, right? So there it is. We didn't make any money. No one likes it. It just sits there. So the wheel was finally auctioned off for scrap.
Okay.
Guess how much they got? Have a crack.
I don't know. Is it $700,000 and they can pay their debts for that year?
Really close.
What is it?
$1,800.
$1,800.
$1,800 they got for
Even for that giant metal bar?
Yeah. Well, the receiver, like the bankruptcy receiver, was actually lamenting for exactly these reasons. He said, look, the engine alone's worth $10K. The boiler's probably $7,000. There's 2,000 pounds of steel.
But you know how hard something like that to pull apart is. It's not simple.
Well, can you read through this? Because the scrap guy who bought it said, yeah, but it's going to cost $30,000 to take it down.
There you go. So if someone else wants to buy it for more, go ahead, mate. But
have at it. I'll sell it to you for $2,500.
Yeah.
I'll make $700. So yeah, not easy. 2,000 pounds of steel. Fuck me. And put in a very non-accessible structure.
Oh, totally.
Not stacked at the back of the lot. So in May,
even the Eiffel Tower would be slightly easier to pull apart. Like you can take it from the top down. It'd be a lot easier to pull apart than a wheel.
They worked out how to do it. In May of
I'm sure
1906, they blew it up. So Chicago Tribune, and there's no, I can't put it better than they did. It required 200 pounds of dynamite to put it out of business. The first charge wrecked its foundation and the wheel dropped to the ground. As it settled, it slowly turned and then, after tottering a moment, fell like a huge giant in distress, and it collapsed slowly.
Oh my God. I would like to have seen that
Tottering.
though. Like a big wheel.
More exciting than riding on it.
Oh, totally.
Fucking
I'll be there for
wild.
that.
It did not fall to one side, sorry. It just collapsed.
Just
it kind of went
straight in on itself. Okay.
Concertinaed. The wreckers had planned it to collapse. It just crumpled slowly. Within a few minutes, it was a tangled mass of steel and iron, 30 or 40 feet high. The axle dropped slowly with the remnants of the wheel and crushed the smaller brace of the steel framework. But the blast didn't take out the foundations. So they got another 100 pounds of dynamite and drilled them into the concrete to get the support wheels out and blew
Jesus. Okay, no wonder the scrap guy is like, this is not instantly valuable.
Yeah, 300 pounds of dynamite. It's fucking wild. And also, so the bit I didn't mention earlier was I mentioned there was a fight. So Summers said, remember William Summers, the original boy, he said Ferris stole his invention and he sued for copyright infringement. And again, depending on who you read, so there's a site called northjersey.com, and there again, historical buffs and very defensive of New Jersey. They say in court, Ferris later admitted he'd stolen the idea from George Summers after riding Summers' wheel in Atlantic City in 1892. No one else I read mentioned him admitting that he stole it, but that's the claim. And the legal fight went on for years. Summers, again, this seems blurry. Some say he won the trial,
So what does
but
he
then
want?
lost on appeal.
What does he wants? He wants the good profits, not the bad profits.
know,
He doesn't
yeah.
want any of the consequences of.
Maybe just recognition? I don't know. But apparently also Summers went to the Chicago Fair and built his own, essentially what I'd call a protest wheel out of wood.
Oh, yes.
Outside the gates.
Yes. Oh, right on the actual wheel. That's a lot shittier. But still, this was the first.
Wouldn't you prefer this one? I really wouldn't. Apparently it had no impact. No one gave a shit.
I want the good one. Oh, my God.
Imagine as you see it and then you look up and go, but what
I like
is that?
Like maybe Gustav Eiffel. He had his cousin build like a shitty wooden Eiffel
Can you
Tower.
do a small one for me to make me look good?
He's very grand, but he stole my idea. This is what I said. I said 10 feet in wood. You could.
And you made it like 1,000 feet in metal and permanent. You
terrible.
Jerk bastard. So it made no difference. But anyway, Ferris died before it all got properly sorted out. Summers also died in obscurity, but of course New Jersey folk are defending him to this very day. And I mean, I had to dig for this. It's not like it's on every New Jersey website, by the way. Ferris is a bastard. Sure. But it's just adorable. I kind of love how protective they are of their peeps. So where are Ferris wheels at today? And I mean pretty much today. October of 2021, the world's largest or highest Ferris wheel opened in Dubai. Mm-hmm. The Ein Dubai, which translates to I Dubai.
I am.
As in eyeball, not I am Dubai. It opened on the Blue Waters Island. I don't know which bit that is. Apparently they've been fiddling with it, planning it, whatever, since 2013. So it took quite a while.
Mm-hmm. So they're not as fast as the Chicago folks?
No, but there may be reasons. 250 metres diameter.
Okay, that's big.
It's nearly twice the London Eye.
Okay, 250.
Yeah, so we're talking orders of magnitude and scale.
So this is three times the.
Yeah, something like huge. And apparently at the time, the highest one before that was in Las Vegas called the High Roller, which is 170 meters essentially. But every account I read said it was a freaking eyesore. Like, people loathe it. They think it's really ugly. And then it's Las Vegas.
What's ugly? Whatever. I mean, it's a wheel. They all look the same.
Well, some
How could you
weird.
make them
I saw
ugly?
a picture of one, I think it was in Tokyo, that was not ugly, but it was a variation on a theme. Still a
How do you make them different? I mean, we paint them different colours, but beyond that.
Like, what do you call it? Maybe fake marble statue of David Dix, but made out of plaster?
Yeah, that would be ugly, but still.
It'd certainly stand out.
And probably spending your money on the wrong things here. But anyway.
I would agree. Yeah, 250 metres. And this exists. Like, this exists.
So hang on. So we're saying London Eye's 125.
134, the London Eye. So it's almost twice.
So the London Eye is twice the Chicago one.
Twice the London Eye. And the London Eye is, what was the Chicago one? I can't remember the number.
250 feet, didn't you say?
Yeah. So what's that? 70-something metres.
Yeah. So the London Eye is bigger, but still not shockingly bigger.
No, and the Ein Dubai double that for all intents and purposes. What is it? 11,200 tons of steel, 192 cables that collectively add up to 2.4 thousand kilometres of cabling. 2,400 kilometres. So the rider gets a 360-degree view of Dubai's skyline, as you'd expect. You can see the tallest hotel in the world. You can see the man-made islands that look like palm trees and stuff, which is fine. It has 48, I love the language, 48 high-tech air-conditioned cabins with bench seating. Like, I'm hearing high-tech air-conditioned, and you sit on a bench.
Well, yeah.
Come on. I want to sit in a throne made out of,
Can't fit as many people on thrones.
Human skin.
Yeah.
Donated.
That's not me.
I don't want to make it weird.
That's not me.
So one round takes 38 minutes, costs US $36.
Oh.
So I'm surprised in Dubai I would have thought it'd be like, that'll be $4,000.
But thinking about this, I do think so many of these, they're the tourist attraction. That's like, cool, we'll see the city from a bit higher, but it's very much, what are we going to do today? We've been in London and Dubai for a week or something. It's like, let's do something relaxing and air conditioned where we can see from above. But it's not a thing. It's not like Paris. You go to the Mona Lisa, or it's like I want to do either the Grand Tour or see the amazing thing, or in a bunch of places I want to do like back alleys and stuff like that. But it's just like it's something to do with the kids and like.
I queued up for the London Eye. I don't know. Probably not long after it opened, and half an hour into the queue that didn't seem to be going anywhere, I went, I don't give a shit, and I left. Yeah, because it would take you forever to get a ticket.
See, I think,
and then you got to wait to get on. I think
going
back
to Chicago, you can imagine this is total novelty. This is awesome and different. Yeah. Now it's so much. It's like it's something to do. But
I'm sure
there are no memories.
I'm sure sitting at the top of the London Eye looking over London would be very interesting, because I think London's much more interesting from the sky than it is from the ground. I've got nothing against London, but looking at it, it's not amazing.
Oh, look, I think it's probably a good city in the sense that it's got the density and it's got things to look at.
And
from
it's
that
not
stuff.
too tall, so you can see it all.
You know, I think there's probably other places where it's like, cool, I can see tall buildings from a different angle.
Another tall building.
I really do feel it's one of those things where people go, okay, it's within the price point of I'm on holiday and I can spend, you know,
This will kill a day.
Get the family on here. It's something to do and it uses up some time.
Yeah, and you can have a little drink and a rest while you're there.
I still admire, you know, I think of the originals putting these things up, still something.
I think it's impressive. The architectural engineering feat is remarkable. I mean, and the colossal vision to leap from 50 feet to 250 and make it out of metal, blah, blah, blah. Freaking amazing. No beef with that.
Make it big.
Make it bigger. Problem is, once you go for big things, it's always got to be bigger.
Make it biggest.
Yep. And then after the biggest?
No, that's it.
The next biggest.
No, because that's biggest. That's how biggest works. I don't know if they taught you that in primary school, but you have big, bigger, biggest, and that's it.
Oh, I didn't know that. I went to a public school, they didn't teach us much.
No, I definitely went to a public school. And it's biggest. They said, this is it. Can't get any bigger. That's it. Biggest. Expo 88, together we'll show the world those fuckers. Those fuckers. The Wholesome Show is me, Will, him, Rod, brought to you by the Australian National Centre for the Public Awareness
of Ferris Wheels.
Ferris Wheels.
Or Summers Wheels.